Okay, so we're looking at a letter pattern, and so we can see that this candidate's being asked to write a formal letter, and the topic has been given to you. You recently attended a meeting at a hotel. When you returned home, you found that you had left some important papers at the hotel. Write a letter to the manager of the hotel. In your letter, say where you left the papers, explain why they are so important, tell the manager what you want him or her to do. Okay? They ask you to write at least 150 words. You don't need to write the address, and then they give you the beginning of your letter. Okay? So we can see that this is going to be a formal letter pattern. You're specifically writing to the manager. Okay? So you should be being formal, not only in your tone, which also, includes your vocabulary, and your grammar, and your punctuation or convey tone. Okay, but also it's important to convey tone, also be formal, also in the content of what you're giving in the letter. Okay, so there's sort of two parts to sort of formality. There's the tone, how you say something, and then also the content, which is what you say. Okay, so for example, if you were writing an informal letter to a friend saying that you left something at their house, you might say, "Oh, when I went to the bathroom, I think I might have dropped my ring down by the side of the toilet. Can you check for me?" Okay, so the not only is the tone informal, like using slang and stuff, but it's also informal in content. Like it's informal to be talking about going to the bathroom or to have dropped your ring by the toilet. Or to say something like, even if you were being really formal, "Dear manager of the hotel, I regretfully inform you that on the final night of my stay at your wonderful establishment, I became so drunk and inebriated that I fell down and lost my ring at the side of your pool." Even though the tone, the grammar, and the vocabulary is formal, the content of what you're talking about is not formal, because the content of what you're talking about is getting drunk and falling over. So that's not an appropriate content to a formal letter, okay? So there's two parts to formality. So usually candidates really focus on things like using academic vocabulary and using kind of formal grammar. So that's sort of like those modal verbs, kind of, may you, should you, could you, those kind of words to try and raise the formality of their tone. But sometimes they don't realize that content is also a very important part of formality, especially in English, because in English, we're different to other languages in that we don't have a different form of a word to be formal or informal. In Japanese, in Korean, it's very easy to be formal because you have a totally different set of words or ways to form your words to show that you're being formal. In English, we don't have that. So what you have to convey is both through your vocabulary and your grammar, but also crucially in the content of what you're saying. Okay, so some people make the mistake when they go to the UK or they go to America, that they feel like the tone tends to be quite friendly, and there's this idea that everyone is equal and you can just say whatever you want because it's the UK or it's America. And the way to be polite in the UK is pretending like you're friendly and pretending like you like each other. So people get this impression that it's okay just to say whatever you want. But that's actually not the case, okay? Because a lot of sort of what's difficult for some people going to the UK for the first time is learning that even though the tone can be quite friendly and light, you have to make sure you're giving appropriate content for the formality of or how well you know the person you're talking to, and that it's not okay to say something too personal to anyone. So that's a sort of a crucial difference in sort of tone and content. So for this letter writer, they're talking to the manager of the hotel. So it's not only being polite in how you say it, but it's also being polite in how you explain it. So let's take a look and see what this candidate has done. Okay. "Dear sir or madam, I'm writing to request you to check whether there are some documents that I might have lost at your hotel. I made a reservation for the standard single room under the name of Melanie Yu." Okay, so this is a good sentence. I had made a reservation for the standard single room. So here we've got good, relevant vocabulary, okay, specific to talking about hotels and bookings under the name of Melanie Yu. Again, excellent use of vocabulary here. This is a common phrase that people use specifically in a hotel. Oh, the reservation is under Rachel Blacklaws, or the reservation is under Melanie Yu. Okay, so that's a very good sentence here. I made a reservation for the standard single room under the name of Melanie Yu, and I had stayed at your hotel for 2 nights. I had stayed at your hotel for 2 nights, and from the 28th to the 30th of Jan. Then I checked out around noon, and I might have put the documents on the front desk during that time. And then I seemed to forget to bring the documents when I left the hotel. Okay, so in terms of sort of tone, this is sort of a good formal tone that she's using. I'm writing to request. Okay, that's a nice way to open your letter. Again, we've got checked out. So again, specific use of vocab. We've got the use of new, nice word. I seem to forget. That's also a good phrase. Front desk, nice vocabulary. So there's lots of good things going on here. There's a couple of issues with her sort of the tense, as we can see, that she made a couple of like smaller grammar mistakes. But overall, it's looking quite good. The documents will be submitted as the report of the business trip to the city that your hotel is in the city that your hotel is located. Some of the documents are also included the receipts for reimbursement. There is my name on every document in any way. I don't need that, such as the name of the writer and the signature, in the form of you wouldn't need to say the name of the writer, in the form of the signature. I have to finalize the documents and submit them to the corresponding department in 3 days. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so this is this is again, we're keeping up this sort of formal tone. This is in the city that your hotel is located. In the city where your hotel is located. Receipts for reimbursement. Again, excellent vocabulary, which is good. Let's have a look at the end. Therefore, I would like you to respond as soon as possible if you're keeping the documents or not. This is a little bit rude. If you're keeping the documents or not. This is I would like you to respond as soon as possible. This is a little bit rude because it's a little bit demanding in tone. Okay, so a better way to phrase it is like, therefore, I would like to inquire. You're asking. It's much more polite in English to always ask. I would like to inquire whether you have possibly kept these documents. Okay, that's much more polite than saying, I would like you to respond as soon as possible. Okay, this is you're making a request, you're making a demand, you're telling them what to do. Respond as soon as possible. So it comes across quite aggressive and quite rude, especially because you're asking for a favor, that whether they've kept these documents or not. If you are keeping the documents or not. Again, so it's indicating that you think potentially they've done something wrong. Okay, have you thrown my documents away? I don't know, lady, maybe. We didn't know if they were important or not. So if I was reading this as somebody who worked at the hotel, I would be like, that's kind of a rude way to say it, not very polite. So it's always much more polite in English to phrase things as a question. So you could say, like I gave the example here, I would like to inquire whether you have possibly kept the documents. Therefore, I was wondering whether it's possible that you have kept these documents or not, question mark. And then that's a much more polite way of phrasing it than sort of this sentence that's kind of gone for here. I am really looking forward to receiving your prompt reply. Excellent sentence. Except for the word your prompt reply. Okay. I'm really looking, this is kind of like a sort of a shady thing to say to someone. Like, I'm looking forward to receiving your prompt reply. In other words, this is saying reply now. So again, this comes across as slightly rude. The word prompt reply is like, it's like a nice phrase, but it's actually kind of like demanding, because it's basically, it's demanding you reply now. It's much better, again, if we're going to rephrase this sentence as a question. I really hope it's possible for you to respond as soon as possible, or it would be really appreciated if there's any chance you could respond as soon as possible about this issue. And again, that's like a much more polite way than saying, I'm really looking forward to receiving your prompt reply. Because by saying as soon as possible, you're saying, or like as soon as you are able, or as soon as it is possible for you, is acknowledging that it's going to cause some issue for the person who's responding. So overall, I think there's a lot of positive things going on in this essay. Like the tone is reasonably quite consistent. We've just got those 2 sentences that I picked out, which was slightly off in terms of tone. So if I was giving task achievement, I think it was a very good letter. It was very good task achievement. Could they have gone into more detail about the situations? Sure, that would be fine. Could she have gone into a little bit more detail of what she wanted the manager to do? Like, she could have asked him to scan documents and send them to her. She could have given her contact telephone number so she could come by and pick them up or something like that. She could have expanded this section a little bit more. For sure, task achievement, I sort of want to give it a 6.5. I think it was very good. Cohesion and coherence. Again, I sort of want to give a 6.0. I think together, like these sections were mostly just let down by those 2 slightly off sentences, but overall the tone was good. Vocabulary was definitely like a vocabulary was pretty good. Vocabulary was definitely like a sort of a 6.0. And then stuff with grammar. I mean, there was some mistakes, but it didn't ever really, affect her communication. So again, I would want to give a 6 for that. And so overall, I'd be comfortable giving this kind of like a 6.0 grammar score, overall score. I thought there was a lot of positives here. If I was this candidate's teacher, I would just want to go through them, these 2 sentences that I highlighted about tone, and just talk more specifically about how and why that might have been a little bit rude. But everything else was great. I mean, even just going back there, I saw all that really lovely specific vocabulary for the topic. Maybe I could bump it up to a 6.5. Just because as I was looking back, I was like, oh yeah, no, all that lovely specific thing, reimbursement, standard single room, checked out, front desk, like all this really great specific vocabulary. So I'm feeling generous today, so I'll bump up to a 6.5. But I thought it was a really good letter, and a really good example of a quite consistent formal tone.